The Trump administration announces its first trade deal with the United Kingdom.
But will that deal ease inflation worries or bring down prices for American consumers? NBC's Melanie Zanona has details from Washington.
They tried to figure out the markets that they're importing from other people.
President Trump today announcing a trade deal with one of the United States' oldest and strongest allies, the United Kingdom.
That it's a great deal for both parties.
The UK Prime Minister on the phone in the Oval Office.
That we've agreed the basis of a historic economic prosperity deal.
Though it's not quite done.
The final details are being written up in the coming weeks.
The nation's announcing the framework. The newly imposed 10% baseline tariff on British imports will stay. And the average UK tariffs on imports from the U.S. will fall to 1.8% from over 5%. The United Kingdom will fast-track American goods in exchange for economic security and alignment with the U.S. The deal also gives the United Kingdom a quota of 100,000 cars coming into the United States before the tariffs kick in. The UK is also committed to buying a certain amount of goods from Boeing. The president admitting this trade deal has been decades in the making, underscoring concerns that trade deals are complicated.
So we could have something of a long runway before we see the ultimate details really hammered out.
The administration is under pressure to strike deals as fears of his tariffs are pushing up prices. Americans struggling to make ends meet, hoping they'll make a difference.
What's the name of that white?
With Mother's Day in mind, you might be paying more for that bouquet.
Flowers are not something that we can buy in advance and hold on to. They have to be cut fresh. Consumers are really going to feel that pinch.
Moms-to-be can also expect to pay more for necessary goods for children like strollers, 97% of which are made in China.
The 145% tariff is truly not something we can swallow.
And today's announcement comes ahead of negotiations set to begin with China this weekend. President Trump's Treasury Secretary heading to Switzerland tomorrow to start high-level talks with his Chinese counterpart. In Washington, Melanie Zanona, NBC News.
Now, this is the first major trade deal announced since the onset of the Trump tariffs.
Joining us now is Ted Rossman, Senior Industry Analyst with Bankrate. Ted, always great to see you. First off, explain to us what we know so far about these tariffs.
Basically, this is a little bit of a special case because the U.S. actually has a trade surplus with Britain, whereas we have a major deficit with other countries like China. But, basically the idea here is that the U.K. may be opening up and charging lower tariffs on certain U.S. imports, things like beef and ethanol. In return, the U.S. is going to be charging lower tariffs on British steel and aluminum and cars. And this actually seems like potentially a political win on both sides. It's an easier fish to fry than some of the other countries like China and others where we have a major deficit. But I actually think that this can be seen as a win for President Trump. I mean, basically, we're paying fewer tariffs to the UK than we used to, and we're charging higher tariffs on them. So it's actually looking pretty good from that perspective.
Ted, what impacts, if any, here will this trade agreement have for consumers, specifically in Texas?
Well, it's definitely a good thing for agriculture, we think. And, that relates to beef and ethanol and other products. It is worth noting that the U.S. has that trade surplus with Britain. They're our 9th largest trading partner, so not insignificant. But, something that probably is not a great framework for some of the other countries that we're dealing with. It's definitely a political win to get one under the belt here, and markets have been jittery and consumers worried about higher prices. And I mean, at least in theory, this is what the president's been talking about doing, which is adjusting some of these imbalances and charging higher tariffs on them and getting some access to markets in return. So, I do see this as a win, but it's probably a fairly modest one in the grand scheme of things. Still, markets have reacted positively. We're actually pretty much back to where we were just before the so-called Liberation Day tariff announcements on April 2nd. Remember, there was that huge market drop. Well, we basically regained all that at this point.
Yeah, certainly giving some peace of mind to a lot of folks who've been checking out their 401ks and their investments. Ted Rossman, Senior Industry Analyst with Bankrate. Appreciate your time this afternoon.